Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and welcome today to the Breaking Free Show. I'm so happy you're here, and we're going to get on with our show, which is the third in a series. And we're really excited because it's about self publishing and all the ins and the outs of you being able to write a book, create a book, publish a book, all those good things. So hold on. I just want to say hi to Amla. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm
You look
good.
good.
I'm happy. I'm good. You know
Good.
why?
I can tell.
I am, and one of the reasons I'm good is because my guest keeps telling me, Marilyn, when you write a book, it's going to change your life. And so now I have a perpetual smile because it is. It's amazing. All the little juicy little things that turn into big juicy little things, or big juicy little things that turn into little things, but it's all so good. And it's true. So I want to share that with you because it is fun and it is changing my life. And honestly, I've been doing things a long time out here, out there, out here on a stage, here, there, and yonder. And it is. And I've been talking, I've been presenting, I've been facilitating, I've been doing all of those things. But there is something that happens when you put your voice on paper and you put it out there. And it can be scary, trust me. It's very sometimes scary to press the button to say go, share it with the world and put yourself out there. However, people do want to hear from you. They want to know what you know. They want to know how you feel. They want to know how you feel that resembles how they feel. So maybe they can feel better, different, good, all of those things. And it's freeing. So I want to welcome my guest today, Sherrie Wilkolaski. Hey, Sherrie.
Hi, Marilyn.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back.
Well, it's good to have you back. So we're excited to have our show. So listen, please feel free to call in anytime you want to 919-518-9773 for all of you out there in the cloud somewhere. And you can also contact us through computers two, that's a number 2K voice on Skype if you want to Skype in. And then we do also have a chat, which you can put your name, nickname, whatever you like, and be part of our chat. So you can ask questions, comment in there, and you can just sit back and listen, and you don't have to do a thing. Just sit back and listen and see where you take this show. So, Sherrie is a very good friend of mine, old friend of mine, and she has written a book called This. Everybody see it? Publishing Architect's Blueprint. And if you see all these little things right here, it's because I read the book and I could not. It was, first of all, it's like reading a novel, which is interesting because could you ever imagine reading a blueprint that's like a novel? No, but it is. It's like a novel, and I had to like put down little green little pieces of paper everywhere where I had a question or something I wanted to remember because I have recently launched a book called In Just One Afternoon Listening to the Hearts of Men, which I contracted with Sherrie to help me with, and she's happy to help all of you out there as well. She'll go into some of that, but it's the first of a series and I want to, and with each one you get better and better. So the first one was a little scary, a lot scary. And but because of contracting with Sherry, that put a lot of my mind at rest. And now with the second one and third one and the fourth one, and I have umpteenth ones to go, I want to be smarter and smarter. And her book is terrific. So now let me welcome Sherry and Sherry. So
Hi.
hey,
Well, I'm
so
so glad to be back.
well, it's good to have you. So tell everybody a little bit about you for those of you out there that have not uh, come to the show before and have not seen our series. Tell everybody a little bit about you.
Well, yeah, if everyone's joining for the first time, welcome. And for those who are coming back, glad to have you back here. But I'm Sherrie Wilkolaski. I'm a publishing architect. And I self-published my first book back in 2003, and it became a bestseller. And I had published through lulu.com, the self-publishing platform, and things just took off from there. So I've attended the Yale Publishing Program, working on my master's through George Washington University in publishing, and worked with coming up on 16,000 authors throughout my career. So my specialty is independent publishing. So we're here talking about how to actually build a book, and today we're going to talk about how to make it beautiful from the inside out.
Okay. So where do we start?
Well, number one, and we've kind of covered this in the first few episodes, but let's just do a refresher on the importance of editing. I cannot stress enough, edit, edit, edit. So I had 3 editors in addition to myself going back time and time again, self-editing, and I printed out probably a dozen copies of the book, if not more, getting my red pen out, checking things off, moving things around, printing it out makes such a difference. But editing is fundamental. That's not something that you can get around. Do not hire your next door neighbor who's a school teacher. You need to hire a professional book publisher. It really makes a difference. So that's just always going to be a given. That's definitely something you're going to want to invest in.
And let me just say, one of the things that I kept asking Sherrie in my process, are you sure I can't do this? Because I would hear different people doing things. I heard this person, having this person for a couple of $100. I heard this person doing this person doing that. And I was tempted. Oh, let me tell you what, I was tempted because it took me a while because I had to get the money together. And I was really tempted. But she kept saying that's the one thing, or one of the one things. There's several one things, but that's one of the one important things, Marilyn, hold out and do it right. And
Yeah.
and it was not easy for me to put that money forward and do that, but I listened. And, and you're still going to see mistakes, little ones, whatever. But nonetheless, it's far better to have somebody who understands the entire process of what it's of putting a book together, because they're not just looking at it from a grammatical point of view. They're looking at it from a book point of view, and that's very different.
Right, and they're looking at it, they're focused on the reader experience, and a book editor, a good book editor, is there to bring out the author's voice. So to keep the author's voice, to make it better, to polish it up. I equate it to, a woman gets up in the morning and she takes a shower and she puts on her makeup. She's beautiful on the inside and the outside, but we do our hair, we put on lipstick, eyeshadow, mascara, whatever it is, you put on a nice outfit, that is, editing just makes the book even better than it is. And the author, as the author, you're going to miss words. Even with all of the rounds of editing I have, the first round, the advanced review version, so the version we did the first go round to send out for reviews and whatnot. All the editors looked at it, and myself, and we found other things, and we went back and fixed them. But we said, gosh, we had 4 people looking at this chapter. How did we miss this? Now, there were some formatting issues, and some of the formatting caused some of that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But yeah, you've got to have it. You need to have it professionally edited, and don't rush to publish. I get so many authors who say, "Oh, I'm going to wait. I want to just get it published, and then I'll get it edited in a couple years." Well, you're never going to sell it if it's not professionally edited, and at that point, you're going to you'll have bad reviews, and you'll never be able to come back from that.
I can't imagine somebody waiting. And I'll tell you, I didn't think my voice was easy to catch. I didn't believe that an editor would edit where the integrity of what I wanted to say was there. And, and she did a really good job. And I still there were certain suggestions that were made that I took, not as far as grammar or sentence structure, but maybe something should move around or whatever. And then there was other things that I said, I really like that there. I want to keep that there. That's my choice.
Exactly.
Right? So, and I did that, and I maintained the integrity of how my book was meant to be. So I appreciate that, and I would suggest that to all of you out there. So, all right, next.
And once you went through the process, you could see you saw the value. You could see the value. And it's kind of scary to see your manuscript all chopped up and track changes and red lines here and there, and the editor making recommendations, and at first blush, it's it can be a lot, it can be overwhelming, but at the end of the day, it's going to make your manuscript the best it can be.
Now, we have a question on our chat, which is perfect for now. So thank you, Katie, very much for asking this. Do you know Katie?
I don't, but
okay. Well, you're going to know her now. All right, so here you go. Is it worth it to show I guess you're talking about the manuscript, to my friends at all while I'm in the editing process. I have had friends offer to read it and give me their opinion.
I would say no. Uh, Unless you've got one friend, because the more people you send it out to before it's actually completed, the more opinions you're going to get back. And someone will say, well, you should do it this way. Or, and it doesn't matter if it's fiction or nonfiction. If it's fiction, well, why did you do this character this way? Shouldn't he have a purple shirt on instead of a pink shirt? And you start getting all these folks start coming at you with different ideas. It's really, it makes the whole process, difficult. Get an editor, you want to get someone that is a professional book editor that preferably you don't know. Now you're going to end up building a really strong relationship with that editor as you start working through everything together, because it's a very personal process. But I would not share the book with anyone unless you have that one special friend that is going to be objective. But I really, it causes more trouble than it's worth, honestly.
Yeah, and I would agree with that because people have a difference of opinion.
Hmm.
And even though people, you're going to put your book out there and people are going to have a difference of opinion. They're going to like some things, they're not going to like other things. And that's fine. And you're going to find that you just have to know that what you're
Right.
putting
Now,
out
I
there.
would
Go
say
ahead.
that the caveat to that, if
Yeah.
before you take it to an editor, is if you're in a writer's group. Now that's a different ball game. So if you're part of a local writers group and you're working together with other writers who are writing in similar genre, people that you trust, that you feel like, okay, that's something you can share. You bring a chapter to share, because sometimes it depends the type of group you're in, but many times folks will come in and share a chapter and you'll talk about it that week or whatnot and do some critiquing on the writing. That's a different story. But I would not just throw it out to your buddies and say, your girlfriends, and say, hey, what do you think? Wait till the book is done.
All right. Good. All right. So keep the
Thank you.
questions coming. Keep the
Yeah.
comments coming. Please feel free to call us at 919-518-9773 or computers, that's plural, the number 2, voice on Skype, and certainly in our chat. Okay. So take us to the next piece.
Okay, so we know the value of editing, so we're going to move on. So once your manuscript is finalized, you have that final edit, and again, once it goes to print, you've got your proof. We're going to find little mistakes here and there, but let's not worry ourselves with that right now. But let's talk about how to actually take that final content and make it look pretty. So we want to make it look like a book. And there's so many authors out there who want to rush to get the book out and think that ebooks are so hot right now that I'm just going to only do an ebook. So let me just say, stop right there. You do not want to limit yourself to ebooks only. You want to publish your manuscript in as many formats as are available. So whether it's you do an ebook, but you also do a paperback. Down the road, you might want to do an audiobook. That's more to produce, but whatever there is out there, you want to get it out in as many formats as possible. So the most effective means in doing that is, number one, formatting the book for print, and it's so depending on how you're going to print. So if you're going to be self-publishing, let's just back up a little bit and talk about how you're going to actually print the book. So you need to be thinking about that even before you get the formatting process started, because if you're going to be using print-on-demand technology, and print-on-demand just simply means that the ability to print one copy of your book at a time, or you can print as many as you like. But if you're going to do thousands and thousands of copies, it's a different type of equipment that you use. So the format of that file would be different in that situation. So formatting for print on demand is different than formatting for a traditional press. So you need to keep that in mind. Now, if you're going to use a self-publishing company like a CreateSpace, which is a division of Amazon.com, or a Lulu.com, or some other individual self-publishing company that'll take care of it and distribute it, or Ingram Spark, or something of that nature, they will provide all the specs and all the details on how you should format that file. And you need to provide that to your graphic designer up front. Now, let me make it clear that throughout my career, And for as many books as I've worked on, when I work with a new graphic designer, I've only had one get it right on how to format a book. Most of the graphic designers out there, they know how to design, but they don't read instructions, and they'll just give you the PDF, the final PDF file, and the fonts won't be embedded and the images won't be embedded, and you're going to get an error message when you try to upload that file and get it into print, where it's going to say, I'm sorry, it doesn't qualify. So you really need to find a graphic designer, number one, who knows how to format a book, not someone who just does logos. And there's a lot of places out there you can go out and do things online that are less expensive. But if you're going to work with a self-publishing company, you're probably going to buy a package or buy an a la carte service. So if you're going to a Lulu or CreateSpace, they sell formatting services, and their folks know how to actually do the proper design of the file. So once that PDF and that manuscript is finally formatted, you're going to have a PDF document that then can be converted to an electronic book file, which is called an EPUB. And that EPUB file will look pretty similar to what the interior of the manuscript will look like once it's printed. And it's important to format for print first and then convert to an ebook. I have a lot of authors, there's a lot of online software out there that is free, and you do get what you pay for. It'll convert a Word document to an electronic book file, and it's all jumbled, and the text doesn't flow clearly, and it doesn't work on certain devices. An EPUB file should work across all e-publishing platforms. So whether you're going to be publishing to Kindle, which is Amazon's electronic publishing division, or you're trying to get it on an iPad, or you're trying to get it into some other e-device, your mobile phone or whatnot, the EPUB file will convert and will be visible. Now it's not going to always look the same, because think about it, if you have your cell phone, it's only going to capture so much of that content on however large that cell phone screen is. If you've got a Kindle or if you've got an iPad, depending on what size that device is, the layout of that is going to be a little bit different. So don't stress yourself out if it's not exactly like what it looks like in print.
So let me interrupt you a second.
Yeah.
So it is very interesting. It all is so interesting, and there's lots of it that makes perfect sense, and then it's complicated at the same time. But
Yeah.
I think I want to ask you, just as a side note, what
Yes.
is it about publishing for you?
I love it.
Why?
Well, gosh, I don't know. It just speaks to me. I just love what I do. I love being able to help authors. I mean, I went through the process, years and years ago with publishing my first book, not realizing how much I was going to enjoy it. It just speaks to me, and I know I'm fascinated with the technology. So, I mean, I could work 24/7 and just focus on publishing all day long, whether it's writing books or helping authors or working on my radio show and talking with other people and learning more. I just think it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I love it.
Good. Okay. Well, I just thought, I just was sitting here and I'm like, this is
A little obsessed with it.
Say that again?
I'm a little obsessed with it.
Well, it's not that often. Well, you know what? I sat and read your book and I loved the book, which is interesting because, there was humor, that it was light, it was easy to remember things. And I thought to myself, well, Marilyn, you're becoming obsessed with something else, because I could sit and read it and I loved it, and I mean,
Thank you.
yeah. And, with things that I really enjoy, I mean, you could just sit and never get tired of it. And I thought, oh my goodness, one more thing now, because I love this whole world of, the writing. And I'm not, and I've said this before, I'm not like a prolific writer. I struggle with it, but I love expressing and I love getting people's stories. So, we have our gifts, but it's just a blast. And so I want to learn as much as I can learn about putting it together, and I know you do too, and then marketing it. Because marketing, and I had to stop myself from reading the end of Sherrie's book because it's so much about marketing, and it's the piece that I also love, because it's, you're connecting, you're meeting people, you're sharing, you're making big things happen. And so it really is fun. So, okay,
Thank you. Well, thank you.
you're
It is a
welcome.
lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. It's addicting. So so let's get back to the formatting. So once you have your files, so that's kind of the process. So it's important, and just kind of as you noted, as I call out in the book, I try to make it interesting and tell stories and little behind the scenes things that happened, has happened to me throughout my career. And, formatting is so critical. I can't tell you, editing, of course, is, but once you get to formatting, if your files are not correctly sized and exported, you're going to be stuck dead in your tracks. You are not going to get that copy, your proof copy, in your hands as quick as you think, because now it's got to go back. And so typically the process is, once you have your final PDF file, you submit that and you upload that to the publishing platform. If you're doing it yourself and you're using a CreateSpace or you're using Lulu or Ingram Spark or something like that, you are going to have to physically take that file, upload it. There's other things throughout the process. You're going to have to put in the ISBN number and the book synopsis and the author name and book title, etc. And as you get through the end, you are going to find out if that file actually works or not. And in the event it does not, you've got to go back to the drawing board, and you're going to have to go back to your formatter. So do your research first and make sure that you've got someone who really knows book formatting and they know what they're doing. So now, where do you go to find a formatter? Okay, you've got the book edited, fantastic. Now you need to have it formatted. If you're using a self-publishing company, a self-publishing platform, go ahead and just let them format the book. You should have no issues with the file. They should provide the files to you when you're done. So you definitely want to ask for the source file. So the source file in graphic design world are all of those files that were used to build that product. So that one final interior file, or the cover. We're going to talk about cover in a second. But you want to make sure that you take all of those files, because down the road, when something changes, or you decide you're being picked up by a traditional publisher, or something else changes, you want to make a new addition to the book, you need those files. You do not want to have to go back and pay someone again to start over from scratch. And when you try to go back to the beginning again, it turns out to be a nightmare. So make sure you always keep all of your ask for and download all of your source files. Don't be so excited that you forget and you run off and get a copy of your book, and then you forget, and you're down the road, you can't find that graphic designer. Just make sure you always ask for your source files. So if you don't want to go that route, and you're going to end up spending a couple $100s for a typical fiction book, nonfiction book, if you do have photographs, there's probably going to be an extra expense. Many times the self-publishing company will limit the total number. It might be 5 to 10, or anything over 10. You have to pay $10 or $20 more per photograph for the insertion, because there's more work that needs to be done. It's not, you're not just dropping it in. It is formatting, and there's something that needs to be done to make sure the text flows around the photographs, and making sure that your photographs are high enough resolution to print, because that will be an issue if they are not print ready, print quality. So that's something else to watch out for. And don't get so hung up. I work with so many authors who get so hung up with exactly, oh, well, this letter needs to be here, or I want this particular wingding at the start of each chapter, or they use some crazy font. Do not. Just keep it simple. Think about the end user, the reader. If you go overboard and it's over formatted and there's too much design work, it's not going to end up being a pleasurable experience. And additionally, it's going to be more difficult at the end of the day for the print company to print it.
And for the person reading it.
You're going to have issues with the person reading.
You're going to have a lot of issues.
And then there could be issues in the actual print process, because if you don't know that much about graphic design, but images and certain texts, they don't print well. Even if they're embedded, if the printer does not own that text, it will or that font, I should say, it will default to something that's similar, and it's not going to end up looking correct. So just run with the standards. And if you're using a company, most companies, and even a Lulu or CreateSpace, or they work with templates. And basically a template is just what it sounds like. It's a template. It's some sort of format that, this is how we do it for fiction, and these are some of our nonfiction templates, and we use these fonts. This is your header, this is your footer, this is how the chapter title is going to look, this is what your table of contents is going to look like, this is how we format it, and your content will get put into that, and it'll come out looking like that.
So this is a lot of this is in Sherrie's book, which
It is.
I would highly recommend you all, anybody interested, questioning the writing process, wanting to write, I highly suggest you go and you get it. Because all of this stuff she does a very good job of laying it out and then laying it out again and then telling you again. And because and the thing is, it's one thing when you hear it and then you put it into practice, then you kind of see it a little differently. It makes more sense. So she does a really good job of doing that. We have there's Barbara on the chat, just so you know, who is writing a book, who I actually met in Wilmington last week.
Oh,
So
hi, Barbara.
yeah. So I want to say hello to her. And then there's Katie. She says, I do have a book that I have written and I'm in the process of editing and would be very excited to see it published. So, we're going to talk more about a lot of that.
Yeah, excellent.
I don't want to jump ahead, but I do want, because time goes really quick.
It
I
does.
want to talk too about the cover.
Yes, we're I'm gonna segue into the cover. I do want to point out, just make a few more points on the formatting before we get to the cover, and a lot of this also will apply to the cover design files. If for whatever reason you are an author that does not want to work and none of the templates are tickling your fancy, it just is not working for you, whatever reason you don't like it, you don't like the font, you don't like the layout, that's fine, but recognize that you are going to end up spending more money to format the book, and just really think about, is that where you should be investing your money? Because at the end of the day, will your reader really care so much that the chapter heading is in one font versus something else that you saw in another book that was published by a big, huge publishing house that has the ability to print something fancier? At the end of the day, you have to think smart. And on the formatting, whether if you use a self-publishing company, they will be using templates. They probably also offer a more a la carte hire-end couture service they can do some sort of custom design. But again, you're going to pay more money for it. If you do something like a cookbook or something like that, you've got some sort of textbook that requires a lot of charts and graphs and things like that, you may have to invest and spend a little extra.
So, and let me just say, from a recent launcher, there's a lot of the details that Sherrie is talking about as far as changing the font and getting fancy. I mean, you want your book to look good. There's no question. But you don't want to spend your life in some of those details. The cover is very important. The what do you call this part? I forget. This part.
Oh, the spine?
The spine. Yeah, all of these things are very important. So there are certain things that you want to put your patience and your detail in, and some of it isn't important. So
Correct.
You want to make sure, because as an individual person, right, who you'll use a CreateSpace, you'll use a Lulu, you'll use Ingram, maybe you're going to contract with Sherrie or somebody like, whatever. There's a lot to think about. So don't spend your time in the areas that just are overwhelming and may not matter. When I did my book, I was very sure about I didn't know what the cover should look like, but I knew about the font. I went looking for the right font for the front because it mattered and I was going to use it, and I was very clear. But as far as the inside, I just wanted it to be clean, good, and readable. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's so important that you don't get lost in those little details. I mean, the little details are important, but just know level of importance and what to nitpick on. Now, I'm going to give you a really great resource for those authors who still say, well, no, I don't want to, pay a few $100s to have somebody do the formatting. I want to do it myself. I would highly recommend pressbooks.com. Now, I use Pressbooks to do my design. It's a WordPress based online publishing software, and you build the chapters. So number one, if you don't know how to use WordPress, I would say, just pay somebody else to do the work. But if you do, if you are a little bit tech savvy, and you know how to use WordPress, then I would recommend Pressbooks. It's $99, so it's $99 at the point in which you're ready to export your files, and it gives you your PDF files. It gives you all different types of electronic book files, from Mobi to EPUB. You've got everything that you need to take that content and go do the work, print on demand, and submit to a self-publishing printer. So if you want to take the time, again, it's template based. So if you're working on fiction, they have a variety of fiction layouts. If you're working a nonfiction book, they've got a variety of layouts. Now, they just recently had added some new additions, new features to working with photographs. So up to this point, till about 2 weeks ago, it was very difficult to insert photos, and it just wasn't fun. Extra coding needs to be done. It would take extra time, and their customer service is really great. Zoe was a girl that helped me with my book, and so she was always responsive, and the folks over there are really great. I'll be actually doing an interview with them next week for my Publishing Architect show, but I would highly recommend it. And many times, just go out there also before you actually pay the $99, which is a very reasonable price, but keep in mind, you are doing the work. So any changes that need to be made, you're going to have to go back. So it's not like, you go ahead and you send your Word document off to a formatter and you pay them $200 or $300 and they do all the work. You need to keep in mind how many hours it's going to take you to do your book. And it depends on your word count. Obviously a 50,000 word manuscript will take less time than a 100,000 word manuscript. So just keep that in mind. What is your time worth? But if that's something you want to do, it's $99. And many times they're running specials and they've got coupons out there. So just put that in there and you might save $20, or, as you get closer to holiday or when it's a slower time of year, you sometimes can get 50% off. So it's definitely worth the investment, and I would highly recommend it. So we talked about interior formatting. While that's getting done and completed, even earlier on in the process, you should be looking at your cover. And the cover is critical. I mean, that's a marketing piece. That's the first thing someone's going to see that's going to introduce that book to the world, right? So the cover is very important. Not only is it important visually, but also from a sales standpoint, there are certain elements of the cover that you need to watch for. And I get so many authors who say, well, I want this big elaborate design, and I want to use this image and that image, and think about it, less is more. So don't go crazy, and use a professional book cover designer. I have had, again, just same with the interior, use a professional book cover designer or the interior designer and a cover designer. You need to use a professional graphic designer who knows how to work in this space, because I've had so many authors come to me. They have these beautiful covers. They've asked for the source files, whether it's been done in InDesign or whatever it might be, and the way the graphic designer has done the layout, it doesn't meet distribution requirements. So when you distribute a book, so once it's finished and you've got it published and you're uploading your files, you're going to want to distribute that book to Amazon, right? Well, you're going to want to distribute that to Barnes & Noble. You're going to want it to be able to be online retailers or brick and mortar retailers to be able to pick up your book. And there are certain requirements. If this is a product, your book is a product. So there's certain things that are important. So like the spine of a book is important. The ISBN number, so this number right here, which is the unique identifying number that basically says that this is a paperback book with so many, by Sherrie Wilkolaski, Self-Publishing Fundamentals, et cetera, et cetera. It retails for $15.95. In paperback, I mean, even my ebook has its own unique identifying ISBN number, because it says it's an ebook. It retails for $9.99, et cetera, et cetera. Who's the publisher? Who's the author? What's the book title? So you need to have all of that stuff in order. And then on your back cover, you want to reiterate your title. There's so many people that don't I mean, what happens when that book is laying upside down in a coffee shop? You want people to be able to see the title again. You want to have the book synopsis. You know, you want
Can
to have
I want to interrupt you a second if
yeah,
I
go ahead.
can, because I want people to realize, it's interesting with a lot of what she's saying, and I'm putting it to use. So if for those of you out there that have not published yet, that's great. This is perfect. And then there are some of you out there that have published, and you're having some of the experiences that Sherrie's talking about. So I took my book, I've taken it to bookstores, I'm taking it around, and I've had people actually turn it around and look at the spine and go, oh, this was professionally done. And I really relied on Sherrie to do it. I didn't know what she was talking about. I'm learning now as I'm reading her book and I'm talking to her. Some of this stuff I didn't know about, but I heard people tell me, "Oh, Marilyn, this was professionally done." And I said, "Yes, it was." I mean, that makes a big difference when you're going out there and I often say to her and to other people, I did not slap my book together in a weekend. I
No.
put a lot of heart and soul into it. And it's not a lost leader for me. It's not to get me a specific gig, even though it is. It's not to get me a new client, even though it is. It's not to get me certain things. I have a propensity for sharing people's stories. And I have a love for having people share their experiences with life and connections and all of those things. But it does matter what about putting it together and having you, when you hand it to somebody, that you feel good. And I'm going to tell you what, they look at the front, but they do look at the back. I've seen more people read the back than read the front. And just a second, can I show my book a minute? Just you want to, I mean, every time I look at it, it's like every time I look at my children, I'm in heaven. Every time I look at my book, I'm in heaven. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I look at it and go, ugh. No, I love it and I love sharing it. So I want you to love sharing yours too. So this is the cover matters. So anyway,
It does, and again, like the interior, the cover has so many elements. Now, I would also let me just back up again because when we're talking about the interior, there's also things that need to be noted that, like the copyright page, that is a requirement. The title page, you're going to need 2 different title pages for the interior. So typically, it goes where you've got your title page with just the title. Your second title page will have your title, your subtitle, your author name, and the actual publisher. So those are things, they're requirements. It's a requirement. Right. So all those little things, again, you need to use a professional designer. And I do cover all that in the book.
Okay, here's a really important question. So I want to, yeah. So this is from Katie. And Sherrie knows I'm going to interrupt her because these questions are important.
Yes,
and she goes into a lot of this in the book, but I think that this particular question is something we need to spend some time with. So who does the book synopsis? Is that something I can contribute to at all? This is Katie, who's writing a book. She's writing her own book. She wants to know who does it and can she contribute to it. Take it away, Sherrie.
All right, the book synopsis. Yes, great question, Katie. Well, number one, you as the author should be writing the synopsis. I mean, who knows that better than you? What is your book about? Is it fiction or nonfiction? Either which way, it doesn't matter. But as the author, you should write it. I would submit your synopsis along with your manuscript when you send it off to the book editor, and let the book editor clean it up. And if for whatever reason you did not do that early on in the editing process, then if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then hire someone to do it, book publicist or marketer, or someone like myself, where you get someone objective to take a look at it. The synopsis, it's a marketing piece. It's how you're going to market your book.
What are some of the elements in that? What do you Like what would
So
you
you're going to
consider
need,
putting in there?
well, number one, you're going to need a small, like about 100-word synopsis, because there's certain places when you distribute the book that you just need a shorter description, and then there's other places where you can get a longer description. So I'm sure, I'm just assuming everyone's been to Amazon or you've been to an online book retailer, and you can see you might get to one page and there's just a few lines of copy that say, oh, it's such and such book. It's a little teaser, and then you get to the full synopsis where it can go into more detail if it's fiction, talking about the characters, if it's nonfiction, all the benefits of that book, and how it can help you achieve a goal or complete a task or whatever it might be. So, absolutely, as the author, Katie, you should go out and you should write it up, and that's going to ultimately be what is used to market the book.
Right. You know,
Yeah, in
I
your distribution and media kit and all of that.
and I went and looked at other people. Did you already say that? I went about
No, but
looking.
that's
Yeah,
a great. Yeah.
I went to look because I had no clue, and it's hard. It's hard to take an entire book, mine, everybody's, and put it into a paragraph. And
Exactly.
I let me tell you what. And my title in just one afternoon is it can sound, well, what does that mean? That's the title of my series. So what does that mean? It to
Yeah.
me it means anything is possible, and look what just happens in one afternoon. So of course, if anything is possible in an afternoon, you know, look what we can do together and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I it was hard for me to put a whole book into a paragraph. So I looked at different other books and how they were saying it. And of
And
course,
we went round and round. You sent me
yes,
several iterations, and I sent you some competitive
yes.
titles. So, Katie, I would recommend that as well. I don't know exactly what you're writing, but I would go out to Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com and find some other books that are in your space. So, if you're writing romance or whatever it is, find 3 books that are similar to yours. Don't do more than 3; you'll be overwhelmed. Pick 3 books that are similar, and just look to see how is that author positioned the book with the synopsis. And you know what, you might need to, if you feel like you need to look at more, go ahead and do that. But you'll kind of get a gist for how to best position your book. Again, keep in mind, it's a marketing tool. It's a teaser, so you don't want to give it away. So, talk about something that's interesting, that would be intriguing, or what, if you're writing romance, what is it that's going to intrigue your listeners? If it's a nonfiction book, what are the things you can do that this book is going to do to help somebody in their life and achieve a goal?
So before we go on, why don't you tell just a little bit? This is a good time, like what you offer when you work with an author.
Sure. Well, number one, I would say, and don't get me wrong, I love doing author consultations, but I would really love an author to pick up my book first, so they have a better understanding and a better comprehension of the entire process. Because I think, as you saw in my first chapter, is all about expectations, and that is the biggest challenge in working with an author. It are expectations, and them being properly positioned and mentally prepared for the process. And I know, Marilyn, we talked about that right early on, and you're like, some things you were like, and then later on she'd call me up or text me, you were right.
Yeah, I needed some hand holding.
Yeah, yeah. So I, before I do anything with an author, number one, get out there and, love it if you read my book, but also, doing a 1-hour consultation with an author is because I want an author to be prepared. We'll talk, we'll find out what your objectives are. Are you interested in self-publishing? Are you considering trying to find a traditional house to publish you? If that is your strategy, then let's put together a blueprint. Let's put together a plan, because you need a plan right from the get-go. You don't just need a marketing plan. You need a publishing plan. You need a publishing strategy that then is going to turn, and you're going to turn that into a marketing plan ultimately down the road. So, I love to do a 1-hour consultation. I guarantee it will save an author time, money, frustration in the long run. Because my goal is to help an author get their book published as best they can, within their financial budget, with keeping their goals in mind. And also, I get these authors that come to me, I want to sell 3 million copies in the first 2 months. Okay, well, what are you going to do that? Do you have a budget? Well, no, I don't have any money to spend, but I want to be a New York Times bestseller. Well, that's unrealistic, and so I'm not afraid to in a polite way, tell someone that this is just not going to jive, but okay, if this is what we can do, then let's set some realistic goals and expectations and take it from there. So, yeah.
And I will say, and there's a lot we can talk about. Isn't this fun?
It is.
It
I
is
know.
fun.
I know.
It's a wonderful topic. I would say that you have a lot of power within your own self to do a lot of greatness with your books.
Mhm.
I am really excited to be doing mine every single day. And I got the writer's bug because I don't consider myself a writer. And I say this a lot. I'm an author, but I'm not a writer necessarily. And last night, you know how they talk about how writers will talk about, oh, they have a book inside of them and it's talking to them all night long and da da da. Well, it happened to me last night. My next one and then the one after that in the series were both talking to me at the same time. Go figure. I had
Yeah.
my next book is in just one afternoon listening to the hearts of twins, and I'm in the process of transcribing all of those interviews that I did, and then the next one is in just one afternoon listening to the hearts of millennials, and oh my God, they were both getting at me at the same time last night, telling me how I should begin the book. So it's fun. It's fun, and just for your own, if you want to go look at my jacket and my book, it's on Amazon. There's an ebook and a paperback, and it's under.
Let's talk a little bit more about. So I want to be clear on the covers.
Okay.
Let's kind of circle back to the covers. And again, folks in the chat room, feel free to keep asking questions. I really appreciate that. And I know our other viewers enjoy that and listeners enjoy that as well. Or you can call in. Marilyn, what's that phone number again?
Yep, 919-518-9773. If phone, cell phone, and if you want to come in on Skype because you're calling from, who knows, Paris, France.
Yes.
Come in on computers. That's plural. The number 2K voice, and then of course you can be in our chat as well.
Excellent. Well, great. So let's kind of round up on the cover design. I really prefer to have the cover done early on in the process. So even as the book is in the editing process, even if you can do it prior to that, great. Many times you're so involved with writing the piece that the cover is probably the last thing you're thinking about. But that as the book is in the editing process, you absolutely should be focused on the cover even before the interior is going to be completed. And when I say work on the cover, I mean that overall design. So it's not just the front, which people think, oh, I'm just going to focus on the front. And there's a lot of online. You're going to go to some of these sites like don't cheap out and go to Fiverr or some of these other online sites where what they do is they do an ebook cover where so all you're getting is this. You're not actually getting the spine and the back. You need all three. Again, you're not just going to publish your book as an ebook, right? You're going to publish it in print as well because you can use print-on-demand technology. It's cost-effective. Spend the extra $49 and you got it, right? So, so you need to think about it as one whole unit. So it's not just you think about that whole thing. I cannot even tell you how many authors have come to me with nothing on the back. They've had a blank back cover, not realizing that this is a billboard. This is a billboard for you to market your book. You want to tell people what it's all about. Who's the author? Why should they pick this up? Who's it published by? You need the ISBN number there. The retailers need that so they can, check you out in the bookstore. But, use that back cover. And again, your synopsis is going to be used throughout. It's going to be used in online marketing. It's going to be used when you are pitching yourself with a media kit. And we're going to talk about marketing next week. But that book synopsis, as Katie was asking earlier in the chat room, the book synopsis is critical. So it's going to do your online marketing. You're going to use it on the back cover of your book. But the way the book cover is designed is so important. You need to keep distribution rules and regulations and requirements in mind. So for example, how far the text is from the edge is important. Where the book cover is. And keep in mind that and this is my advanced review copy. So this one actually is is incorrect, and that's why this is one of my proof copies. But it needs to be a certain distance from the edge, and if it is not, it will be, again, kicked back. Now, it might look beautiful. I can't tell you all the authors that have come to me with really pretty designs, and then they realize that the book is not going to qualify for distribution, which means they can't get it out to the world, they can't publish it, and now they take months and months, then they say, well, are you sure? I mean, you can't mess with it. So they fall in love with a certain design element, and then they're stuck on it. And then when you get something that's revised that is actually going to work and it still looks fabulous, you're always going to look at that cover and say, oh, well, the other cover I had was really beautiful, and I don't really like this, and it just turns that into a mess. So all of those things you need to keep in mind throughout the design process. And again, find a book cover designer who knows how to do cover design. It's critical. Now, you need to be thinking with the cover, think ahead. How many different, what type of covers where are you going to be publishing this book? Are you going to be using CreateSpace? Are you going to maybe use Lulu to do private special edition copies? Are you going to publish through Ingram Spark? Are you going to use another self-publishing company, which most of those self-publishing companies do end up using Ingram or a CreateSpace, so many times they'll take care of sizing the files. But are you going to later down the road do an audiobook? So should you not create the audiobook cover while you've got the graphic designer? It makes more financial sense. Why would you want to rehire someone a year down the road when you're going to do your audiobook cover, and then you're starting from scratch, and if you didn't ask for the source files, now you don't know if it's going to have the same coloring and same image and fonts and all that good stuff. So be thinking ahead with the cover. Where are you going to publish? Now, I also call out in the cover design section. I talk a little bit about Espresso Book Machine. The Espresso Book Machine is a print-on-demand piece of equipment that you can find in a lot of universities. There's one at NC State and in Raleigh, and so whether it's in a university or it's in a library or some bookshop, the Espresso Book Machine does print on demand in the shop right then and there. They require different file sizing than does if you're going to print with someone like CreateSpace or Lulu or Ingram Spark. So you're going to need different size interior and exterior. So the cover file and the interior files. Many times the interior file will transfer, but it's typically the book cover that is the biggest challenge. And you're going to need to wait until that interior is finally formatted and you've gone through that PDF document and you've gone through it one more time or a few more times to make sure that everything is in order. Once you sign off on it, then you're going to know what your page count is.
Sherrie, I want to mention something that's on the chat too.
Yes.
So this is from Sheridan, and Sheridan is from Lulu. So we're happy to have her here.
Hi, Sheridan.
Yeah. And she says, the most common reason for a book to be rejected for distribution is because the metadata on the cover copyright page does not match.
Exactly.
She says, make sure the exact title, author name are associated with the ISBN and the cover and the copyright page. She said, metadata mismatch makes everyone sad. And then she said, and Lulu does distribution.
Yes, Lulu does distribution. Yes, so you can publish with Lulu and have your book up on Amazon, or you can get it sent out to libraries and Barnes & Noble and all those other online retailers. Absolutely.
So this is very, very, very important. And Sherrie goes into...
this is, yes. And so I do actually cover that in the book because, as you notice, so this is my copyright page. Now note, on the copyright page, I've included the ISBN number for my ebook, for this paperback version, and for my hardcover. So I also have a 6x9 hardcover edition. I have all three because that is one of the biggest issues, just as Sheridan just brought out, that the book will be rejected because many times, again, you format first for print. So if you format your copyright page properly and you have your paperback and your ebook ISBN numbers on your copyright page, once it's converted to an EPUB, it's not an issue with your electronic book being distributed or your paperback being distributed. So that is a very good point. And again, it just goes back to there are so many elements there are so many fine details that go into this process. It's not just about, we have the ability with the software that's out there to go to Lulu.com, to go to CreateSpace, and just put a file up, and boom, it's out to the world. There's a lot of online ebook publishers that will let you just throw up a Word document and publish for free and get it out, or very inexpensively, and they don't care about the content. As the author, you are the publisher, and you should care about every little detail that goes into the whole process.
So when I got my proof, we noticed that the copyright date was off. It said 2016 when it was 2017. Now that makes a big difference.
It does, because we actually pushed the book out, and that was those things where we had to go through and going through the process. It makes a huge difference.
Makes a huge difference to, now I'm out marketing my book. Well, to 2017, if it wasn't caught, it would say 2016. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, and we could have changed it, but it does take time. Whenever there's any change to the metadata, and to clarify, the metadata is really the compilation of all of the content and all the fine details of that encompass the book. So something that the retailer would be accessing. Again, the book title, the author name, the publisher, the ISBN number for each version, right? You're always going to put that all on the copyright page, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, there is one thing I want to absolutely...
Okay, and we only have like 3 minutes left, unfortunately.
Okay, this is it. Okay, one thing, if you walk away with this, let this be it. Make sure that your book cover is sized after the interior, because the final page count of the interior manuscript will be how the cover is sized. Because think about it, if you have a book cover, or the interior is 200 pages, or you have a 300-page interior, obviously that file needs to be larger to wrap that cover all the way around, front, back, and spine. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Yeah, no, and just remember that these little lines tell a lot of stuff. So it's very important. And I went somewhere last week, and while I was there, the woman pulled up everything. She pulled up Ingram. She looked me over, front and center. And so it's very important.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about marketing next week. So
yes,
come with your cocktail.
Yes.
Come with you. So final word, Sherrie. What's a final word?
The final word is just, I would love it if you get out there and buy my book, but whatever you do, just publish professionally and take it seriously, because like Marilyn said at the top of the hour, publishing a book will change your life, and it's an amazing thing, and I love helping authors do it every day.
And I would say, I'm having the time of my life doing it. I've just this morning had the pleasure of sitting and chatting with Sheridan on the phone from Lulu, so I'm excited about that. I love Sherrie, and I'm excited. Every time somebody hears that I am an author, they start telling me about their stories, and they want to know, is this a book? And I'm like, oh my God, it's a book. Everything there's so many ways of making your voice come out. And, so tune in next week. We're going to talk about marketing, which is one of my favorite subjects.
Oh, there's so much to cover.
Ooh, it's so much to cover. So we're going to have a lot of fun next week. So with that, I want to thank Sherrie for being here, and everybody on our chat. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Oh, you're very welcome, Sherrie. Thanks so much for being here, and everybody out there, thank you for coming, and I look forward to seeing you next week, and I'm done too. Right?
Yep.
Mwah. Have a good writing week. Write. Read, write. Bye.
You're tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.